This is Moonlit, my first ever art level, and this is it remade in 100 hours, 1 year later. This is part 2 of the series, so if you want to know what happened before this, then you should watch the previous video linked above. Anyway, without further ado, let's get into the video. Now, in the original level, Moonlit, there was this transition where the ship flew up into the sky and towards the moon, which, when I made it, I thought it was really cool, and to be fair, it was the best part of the level. Anyway, for Moonshine, I wanted to remake the ship as a space shuttle, where the player flies along with it. I started by building this glow thing that zooms by really quickly, giving it a sense of speed yet professionalism, opposed to the previous level, where I just used these ugly, fast-moving stars. Anyway, I began working on the shuttle, and it was incredibly difficult. It took me a full day to literally just build this frame, yet slowly it all came together. After day 2, the details started coming in, with me finishing the back and 2 side rockets. Now on day 3, I had the hardest job, building the shuttle itself. Yet after many hours referring back to this reference image, I did, and I honestly could not have been happier with the results. Anyway, after that, I put it into the level, yet the camera rotation made it difficult to see the rocket, which I'd spent so much time making, so I changed the camera rotation, allowing me to see the rocket more, and also saving a lot of objects. I then added some movement to the rocket, which gave it a lot of life. I then tried to add some obstacles to the part, yet it looked much better without anything. Anyway, after the part was done, I made this clean transition out of it, and the best part of the level, and my best part yet, was done. Going into the next part, and when looking at Moonlit, you can see how this part is supposed to be a moon base looking down at Earth and the rest of the planets. Anyway, for this part, I thought it would just be a bit silly to remake all the planets, so instead I decided to just remake the Earth. Anyway, we'll get back to that later, as first I had the ground to build. Now in the original, this part had some pretty wacky structuring, so I was going to make something a lot more standard, while still sticking to the original. Anyway, I started by making this layout for the ground, where there are these slopes leading to a higher elevation before ascending back down again. Now, I was originally going to make there be a wave part at the top to replicate the original. Then I realized that it was going to take way too long to decorate, so I ended up scrapping that idea and just leaving the top as a cube too. Anyway, it was time to create the ground. Now to start off, I put down this base and added some texturing, and I'm not gonna lie, this part was looking atrocious, and even after adding the block design, my hopes just got lower. I really needed to turn this part around. First thing I did was to add some more depth by adding multiple layers of the ground. After about 2 hours of work, it was finished, and although this part was still definitely the worst, my hopes for it began to grow again. Now I knew that the part still needed some more to it though, so after adding some stars and the earth I previously made to it, I decided to add these saws. Originally, they looked extremely plain and boring, yet after adding these chains, it looked quite good, and after spamming them around the part, it made the part look so much better, and it was definitely what it needed. After that, I added these jump indicators that I'm still pretty proud of, and also some air deco. The part still didn't feel complete though, so I ended up adding some of the saws to the background, which perfectly finished off the part. Now, after building this end screen, which I'm still really proud of, and is definitely the best end screen I've made, it was time to do some polishing. When I finished the last part, this level was under 8k objects, and I wanted to keep it that way for some reason, yet I realized that this was just holding the level back. So I completely scrapped the object limit thing, as it's already extremely optimized. Anyway, the first thing I did was add these indicators to the ball part, which made it go from extremely empty to full looking. I then polished off a lot of the gameplay bugs, and patched secret ways, and the level was finally done and ready to release. Okay,
Moonshine.
Are you ready to release Moonshine? Here we go.
Yes.
Over a month of work. 3, 2,
2,
1.
Hey.
Wait. Huzzah!
Yeah.
It's out.
Hey.
Now, when I released the level, I got 2 main complaints: the gameplay and the length. Now, for the gameplay, the part that was mostly mentioned was the UFO. This was understandable, as I had to completely change the gameplay after I had already decorated the part. Now, the first thing I did was remove these sketchy portal things, and then completely restructure the gameplay. I removed all of the orb spam, and made it less click intensive, and also nerfed it a lot. After about 2 hours of bug fixing and balancing, the update was finished, and I swiftly uploaded it. Upon release, the gameplay complaints stopped, leaving just the level length problem left. Looking at Moonlit, you can see that the level ends at the drop here, so to replicate that in the remake, I made it end at the drop. Now at first, I thought this was fine, yet many people thought that the ending was sudden and underwhelming, and many moderators sent the level for feature and not epic for the sole reason for the sudden ending. For weeks, I was stubborn against adding an extension, yet as I looked back on the level, I realised more and more that it could use an extension. As this feeling built up inside of me, I ended up making this community post where I asked my community whether or not I should make an extension, and the answer was an overwhelming yes. I started by taking the end screen that I was really proud of and moving away all the end screen text. It was very motionful, so it was already perfect for the background and didn't need any improvement. I then made the camera lock to the sky trigger and it move along with the player. Then I made the background move with the player, and it was time to actually build the part. I started by making these block designs that looked decent, and then these arrows that are kind of mid. At this point, this part was looking pretty nasty, and I knew it, yet I couldn't add anything else that made the part look good. I tried saws, and they made the part look worse. I tried random circles, and they looked awful as well, yet then I tried something out of the box. Although the blocks were semi-transparent, I decided to add a parallax effect. What I did was add blocks below and above the main ones with lower opacities and then make them lock to the camera at different values. Now, I'm not gonna lie, whilst I was making this, it looked so bad. Yet after pushing through and making some tweaks, this was looking really good and ended up making this really trippy effect. Anyway, with this ship part done, I then had the UFO, and I wanted to make a different design. I ended up making a design again inspired by Bleed's level Magic Journey, and after pasting it around the part and adding these pulsing square things, all I had to do was make a transition to the end screen. I added this white screen that just faded onto the screen and then faded out again once I cut to the end screen. Anyway, after about 20 minutes of work, polishing and re-implementing the end screen, the extension was done, and I honestly couldn't be happier with it, despite it only being made in a day or two. Anyway, after this, I would get send after send, and even end up getting my first epic send on a solo, and after a couple of weeks, the level got featured.
What? Is it? Yo, it's featured. Yo, let me check the featured tab. I hope it's not like millions of miles down. Oh my gosh, wow. You know, not that I was hoping for an epic break, but feature is fine. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Page 5 is not bad. Page 5 is not bad.
Despite it not being the epic rate that I had hoped for, I'm still extremely thankful. Anyway, the ID to the level is in the description. Thank you so much for watching.